How do everybody? How are we all doing on this rather rainy Thursday afternoon in August? Quite shocking, really, that the weather's gone this way. But hey ho, I suppose without the rain, we wouldn't have the greenery, would we? And the beautiful scenery that we get to enjoy. So I just want to give a discussion and some opinions on the aftermath of what's recently happened in the UK in regards to the riots and things that we've seen happening. I'm not necessarily going to go too deep into the events themselves. Might delve a little bit into one or two very particular places. In general, it's more the fallout and things that have happened afterwards that I want to speak about and so to speak. So I'm going to start off by first saying throughout the entire process is the obvious absence of Nigel Farage. He has made one or two comments and he's done generally okay, but I do believe his absence has been noticed, and I also feel that I don't know, in some ways he's been quite milquetoast and a little bit of a letdown even, and like throwing Tommy Robinson under the bus, and refusing to at least say things like he understands why people are necessarily angry and taking a decent stand. That is quite surprising, really. However, I must always say, although I did vote for reform in the recent election, in my opinion, reform and Nigel Farage are not the destination. They are merely the vehicle towards change. So I do not see Nigel Farage as a long-term sustainable option. But for the near future, I will certainly continue supporting him myself. Obviously, it's up to everybody else what you choose to do with your own politics and how you choose to vote. But for me, that is how I view it. It's quite sad, really, and I do believe part of that may be down to his age and the generation that he's in. His mind is probably still stuck in the 1990s, and he's incapable of adapting to the change on the ground and how really we are heading towards an authoritarian state, and that really we do require a different approach to politics now than what was required 10 years ago. Another big point as well, I think that's come from this, is how Starmer's viewed. He's gone from being the public prosecutor, strongman, to really becoming somebody who's, I would say, is out of his depth, doesn't know what to do, and has absolutely divided the country and has shown himself to be a highly politicised individual who has no interest in serving the concerns of the indigenous population of these islands. He's made it clear time and time again that he's only interested, and he specifically said himself, Muslims, dealing with the Muslim community and keeping the Muslim community safe. Well, those aren't my words, those are his words. And he has made absolutely zero effort to even try and unite the nation by saying, although the activities are criminal, I at least understand the anger that 3 girls have been murdered, or words to the effect of. I'm not saying he has to come out and fully bow down to the mobs or anything like that, but he's not even addressed that there was any validity in people's anger. Absolutely shocking. And this has been picked up globally as well. I have seen it stated on multiple foreign news networks and by prominent foreign individuals. Obviously, there's been Elon Musk has been criticising him, but even the deputy, I don't know whether it's president or prime minister of Italy, Matteo Salvini, I think his name, even he's, so this isn't limited to just Elon Musk, and it's, like I say, on various news networks as well, it really, really has not been a good look for the country and the way he's dealt with it. And it could have been his "we will fight them on the beaches" speech, or in the same way how Tony Blair unified a lot of the country. Although again, I'm not a fan of Blair at all. He really did bring the country together in certain ways, whilst shafting us behind closed doors. But at least at the face of it, he kept people happy and at least gave the impression that he cared what other people thought. And Boris Johnson as well. Again, I'm not a massive fan of Boris Johnson. I did try to get behind him. I did try to support him during Brexit because I was a Brexit voter and when he was Prime Minister. But he made a massive balls up of that, in my opinion. But with that, if Boris Johnson had been in charge whilst these riots were going on, I do feel he would at least have the vocal IQ to be able to at least unite people and calm people down, whether you agree with him politically or not. He at least can speak to people, and get people behind him and help, and in some regard calm people down. Keir Starmer's just tried to come in with an iron fist and tried to crush, it's almost like he feels that the impression I get that he feels that he's in a court and that he's dealing with somebody who stood in the dock and who's all the evidence mounted against him, and has no interest in actually negotiating with the other side. Not a good look, and I don't think it's going to bode well for the future of the country. And I think really all he's done is started to radicalise people who were up until very recently not very political at all. Although I suppose in some ways that could be viewed as a positive thing. I guess people should be more political. I'm not condoning violence, by the way. But maybe people who weren't politically engaged are now realising the importance of being politically engaged and not just blindly voting, for the party that you've always voted for. Maybe we'll see a lot more political membership happening and a lot more political activism in the future as well, which would, I believe, be a very, very good thing and would have a positive influence on future politics. Another thing that's come out of these riots as well has been the obvious two-tier policing, and in some ways these troubles that we've seen, that is a positive. This is nothing new about the police treating the indigenous population differently and having kid gloves with various minority and special interest groups. It's just that they've been able to have plausible deniability in the past in regards to that and the way that they've treated people, but this has been just so in your face, so open and apparent, with comparable scenarios of people causing comparable levels of trouble in different parts of the country. Not just in recent weeks. I mean, like with Hare Hills, it was Roma gypsies and a minority of Muslims a few weeks ago, and then a few weeks later it was overwhelmingly white people, and it was night and day difference treatment. But also on some of the nights, there was different riots happening in different parts of the country, and again, when it was overwhelmingly white people, it was dogs and mounted horses, and when it was overwhelmingly brown people, it was soft hats and please and thank yous, and that was on full display for people to see. So I do think that is also a positive to come from this, and that is something that is going to now be in the national zeitgeist, that the government are not going to be able to put away and they're not going to be able to hide, especially when they've had police chiefs going on actual live TV and admitting it in all but words with the things that they've been saying about, we've been meeting up with community leaders from Community X, whereas people from who look like me do not get to have those sorts of negotiations with the police, So again, that is a good thing in some regards, and that's a genie that absolutely cannot be stuffed back in the bottle now that it's out in the open, and everybody in the country and the world, in fact, has been able to see that we've been getting unfair treatment, and that I've said it before, but that goes all the way back to the McPherson inquiry. Another positive I think from this as well is that I think the overwhelming majority of working class people have now realised that Labour are no longer their friends. And a lot of people who have always voted Labour, I think, are now reconsidering that after they've seen the absolute show of how Labour have basically viewed the working classes. And same again, let's take the Home Secretary. When Hare Hills riot happened, it was all, this is bad, but we need to speak to these people and find out what the problems is and try and understand it. 2 weeks later, when white indigenous people are rioting, you will not get away with this, and we are going to come down with you with the full force of the law, and we will crush anybody who has done anything remotely wrong. And it's just plain as day, to see. It's as plain as the daylight coming through your window. So again, that's now at least let people know from less affluent areas that Labour are not their friends and will absolutely throw them under the bus for their own political expediency. But on top of the two-tiered policing as well, we've also seen, as with the, I've just said then with the Home Secretary, we've also been shown how blatantly that we have two-tiered reporting in this country as well. And it's been the same with, there's been countless examples shown of how these are all far-right thugs and riots and blah, blah, blah. And yet when you go back to when the Black Lives Matter were rioting, or the 2011 riots, how it was all, the newspapers were all saying the unheard voices of the masses and things like that, and it was all conciliatory and trying to understand, So again, we're just seeing the bare-faced difference in how white working class people and how minorities in this country are treated completely differently, and how the white working classes are treated with absolute disdain and hatred by people who, it would appear, I would always say, have got a university education. That isn't to say all university educated people, far from it, but the link that I am seeing from the two-tiered policing to two-tiered reporting to two-tiered governance is that all of these people in all these different areas have all got university education and are all constantly being re-educated by university organisations. That seems to be the underlying theme that I get from that. We've also seen the hypocrisy in the treatment as well. So we've been seeing lots of people getting arrested for saying untrue things or inciting violence, all these various things. Um, well, look at the difference in treatment. Now, I know that there was the Labour councillor who was saying about slitting people's throats that he disagreed with. I think fascists or neo-Nazis saying we should go slit the throats. Obviously, he's been arrested. But we've had Jess Phillips, who is a junior minister in, I believe it's the Home Office, was actually making excuses for Muslim vigilante groups who were out on the street with weapons. Now, I do believe that she has now released a statement saying she regrets that, but that I would say would actually surmount to incitement, and it would encourage mobs of Muslim men to go out with weapons after that as well. So I do think it's quite bad that we've got a sitting MP and a junior minister who, like I said, has actually not only been dismissive of, but I would say been supportive of vigilante gangs going out. She has been promoting lawlessness, in my opinion. And the fact that she hasn't been arrested or even interviewed for that is shocking. And the fact that she's still a minister as well, again, is shocking. Really, really is shocking to me. I can't understand how. But again, this is people need to see this and recognise it, and realise that Labour are absolute hypocrites, and they are not our friends. They absolutely are not our friends. We've also seen it with Nick Lowles from Hope Not Hate, who was spreading false information of far-right thugs going, in his words, I believe, far-right thugs spraying acid in the faces of Muslim women, which turned out to be false. But even after the police said it was false, he left it sitting there for hours afterwards. There is video footage of Muslim men yelling in the street about our Muslim sisters having acid sprayed in their faces. So he has incited that. There is a direct proof of incitement, and yet he has not been arrested or interviewed. Again, two-tiered system. Again, that's two-tiered reporting and media. And this is also highlighted as well, Labour MP Clive Lewis. Lots of these are older tweets of his, but encouraging punching people in the face, encouraging people to commit violence, also encouraging things like throwing people under trains. And let us not forget, on the same day that those 3 little girls were murdered, in London on the Underground, a man of, I believe it's Afghan or Kurdish, I believe, background, homeless, threw another person, I believe he was a Royal Mail worker, under the wheels of a train. So this is really, really serious stuff, and it's just absolute barefaced hypocrisy. So that is my biggest take, really, from the fallout of these riots and this disorder. Is it is just absolutely shown the barefaced, two-tiered, hypocritical system in which we live, and how people on the far left of politics really, really do get away with some very, very serious crimes. How the institutions in this country are actually set up to disadvantage the indigenous population, and how they will bend over backwards to protect people that they view as their friends and not as their enemies. I'm going to leave it at that. That's 13 minutes now. Just throwing some ideas out there. They are my opinions. Please do comment below whether you agree with me or not. I'm very interested to hear what other people have to say, and I would certainly like to refine what it is that I'm thinking on these opinions. And if I'm wrong, I'd like to be told I'm wrong as well. But I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you for now. Take care and goodbye.